Pastores tabo vobis, juxta comeum.
As we begin to approach the middle of Lent, I'd like to talk about one of the deadly sins, namely sloth. If we look at Dante's Inferno and Dante's Purgatory, we notice that sloth is dead at the center of the mountain that we're climbing. And so, as we're approaching the middle of Lent, we might be faced with a sort of temptation to say, hey, you know what, I've accomplished a lot already. It's time for me to give myself a little bit of a break. You know, I gave up cookies for Lent, so, you know, I might just have one or two, and what will happen is naturally it'll just spiral out of control. And everything that we've been working towards in this Lent, this trying to perfect ourselves, to make ourselves holier, to make ourselves hungering for God and God alone, just kind of falls apart. And I'd like to use an analogy Father Robert Barron used when he was talking about his 7 deadly sins. In it, he talked about having a disciplined lifestyle as being like that of a river. It's got thrust, and it's moving fast, and it's going somewhere. And so the discipline is putting boundaries on that river, giving it that energy to move forward. But what sloth is making little tiny exceptions here and there and around. And what happens is the boundaries wear out. And what happens to that water is it turns into this lazy lake that moves nowhere. So part of the temptation is to just do nothing. So some practical advice that I can suggest. Aristotle says that when we're faced with temptation, when we're leaning towards one direction, we ought to push in the other direction. So if your prayer is, say, for an hour a day, go an hour and 5 minutes. Just move in the opposite direction of temptation to cut it short. If you're fasting every day and you're tempted to eat more, eat a little bit even less of what you want. And so one of the things that St. Thomas Aquinas says about sloth is the reality of it is we're sorrowful for spiritual realities. When we're faced with a desire to grow in our relationship with God, we become sorrowful because we're mourning the things that we want. And so what we have to do is we have to facilitate a desire to be joyful. So I guess all I can say is hang in there, keep fighting, and just make yourself that river and know that if you fight and win this fight, you're going to be so close to God coming this Easter. God bless you.